This is Kevin E. Taylor, and welcome to the debut edition, a debut episode of This is Legacy. And when I thought about what podcast I wanted to do, I thought about all the noted and notable, celebrated people that I've gotten the chance to interview. Natalie Cole, my favorite singer on the planet, Patti LaBelle, Diana Ross, Tina Turner, Luther Vandross, Stevie Wonder. And so when I was developing new show ideas, I wanted to open the door for new stories because I really thought about like Hidden Figures and the 6888 and really impactful stories in our culture and community that people are like, why didn't we know about that? And it's often because we get distracted by the shiny thing and then don't do the real deep dives and conversations with real people who've had really extraordinary careers. And so when I thought about doing This is Legacy, I didn't want to talk to more celebrities, though I will, but I knew the first person I wanted to talk to. It was, in fact, Derrick Rutledge. Man, I've known probably 30 years, the maestro of makeup, I've called him, but I've watched him take people from sweaty tomboys to elegant icons in an afternoon. I've watched people say to him, "Oh my God, my face has never looked like this," and told him they were going to prop their head up on a pillow because they had a national news interview in the morning, and his face would be the face they wore the next day. Derrick is one of the most gifted individuals I've ever met in any realm. All right. So I'm talking about bring the singer, bring the chef, bring the architects. Derrick, I'm talking about in a stratosphere of all people who do things well. I offer Derrick Rutledge when we talk about people who know their craft impeccably. And so, as we used to say in the Baptist church, I'd like to present to some and introduce to others the remarkable, magnificent, magnanimous maestro of makeup, Derrick Rutledge. Derrick,
Wow. Wow. I'm sitting here, Kevin, with chills. I mean, you really built me up. And I'm like, wow, thank you.
well,
They always say, two simple words really tell someone how you really feel, and that's thank you. So thank you. And this career this year, and I've received several awards this year. Icon from different organizations as makeup icon, icon awards and everything. And it has really taken me back, Kevin, because I'm realizing that this year marks 40 years I've been doing makeup. 40 years. People are like 40 years. I'm like, well, yeah, 40 years. Well, you couldn't be because you look like you're 40. And I appreciate that. That comes from good genes from my parents, but also because I take good care of my skin and I take care of myself. Because I'm a firm believer that you have to be a product of what you're selling. So I take very good care of my skin because I want first impressions are lasting impressions, and I want people when they see me say, okay, if you look like that, then maybe I can look like that. But yes, 40 years I've been at this craft, and I appreciate the fact that I'm now, I'm getting my flowers. So thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
you're welcome. And I've had the opportunity to interview you for a magazine story, and there was a cover story, and to work with you. So I've seen people in real time awe at your work. But the beauty of doing that introduction, Derrick, and why I don't count it hyperbole, but high praise, is that as I was talking, if we had to do this visually, like on a network, I could be throwing down magazine covers and photographs with each word that typified and personified your capacity to do what you do well. And I don't even have to throw out the big guns, right?
Yeah,
Yes, it's Oprah, there's Michelle Obama, there's Patti LaBelle, there's Shirley Caesar, there's Lon Adams, but it's everybody that walked in and out of Black entertainment television, and all of those celebrated people. Like, when Natalie Cole came to town once, she was like, I need a makeup artist. I know one makeup artist. You know what I'm saying? I know people who do makeup artists, who do makeup artistry, but I also know the maestro. And so it was beautiful to bring you and Natalie together and have her be you hadn't worked with her, but she was also very excited to work with you. When do you recall the first time you felt like you were building a legacy? Was there a photo shoot or a moment backstage where you thought, wow, this is pretty amazing? Was it something very young?
Well, Kevin, I honestly, it hasn't really, it didn't start to register to myself that I was building a legacy until I started doing, seeing things that I had done go into museums. Then I said, oh my God, that will forever live in that museum, which is a legacy. But then when I think back, and what I mean by that is, okay, when I was working at the White House for the First Lady, and I would see them put things in the museum that, things when you put them in the museum, they live there forever. Seeing when Oprah Winfrey did um, her big, what was that she had? Remember she was at the African American Museum and she had a
Oh,
huge, but,
no.
yeah, but what happened was they had a huge, gosh, what's the
Oh, yeah. Exhibit.
exhibit? Yes, they had a huge exhibit, Kevin, where they showed all of her work throughout her life of being with the Oprah Winfrey Show, and then just look up there on this up on the wall and see this huge, must have been 20-foot by 10-foot picture of her in the chair with her hands like this, with her eyes closed, and then I'm sitting there doing makeup, and to see that up on the wall, and then to see, ever since 2010 when I started working doing her makeup, to see to have all those magazine covers. So every magazine cover since 2010, I did the makeup for it. So I look at that. Then I think about, then I start thinking back to people that I had done, not realizing it until now that you bring it up, that those were iconic and legendary moments as well. For instance, I used to do Aaliyah. Aaliyah's no longer here. I used to do Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston's no longer here. So I think about all those moments that were captured on BET when I was there for those 5 years, and think about all those iconic moments that, until you brought that up, those are legendary events. And thinking about the hosts of the different shows, thinking about traveling with Patti LaBelle for 20 years as her makeup artist, and then meeting Yolanda Adams the same way at BET, and then being her makeup artist for almost 20 years. And the same thing with CeCe Winans, and to do all of her album covers once she had left, once she went solo from BB up until COVID when everybody was locked at home. But, I think about that. I think about Shirley Caesar. I think about the Clark sisters, Dorinda Clark, and the list goes on and on and on. And even my manager reminded me, and it totally slipped my mind that I had done Barbara Streisand before. And I'm like, I forgot I did Barbara Streisand. I've been doing this for so long that I have to go back and people have to remind me of people that I've done, because I've done so many people, but I've done this out of the love of the craft. I love what I do. I really do. I love what I do. And because I love what I do, I look at it as a love, something that I do naturally without expecting any reward in return.
So talk to me about how you chronicle this giant career, right? You just threw off a litany of names, and there's movie projects, there's magazines, there's album covers. How do you honor that without getting lost in it, right? We were talking earlier about young people, like, how do I become a celebrity makeup artist, right? My office, because of work I did at BET, has platinum and gold plaques in it. You've got album covers and magazine covers. Do you scrapbook them? Do you frame them on walls? How do you honor the work that you've done so that you can remind yourself, that there is a powerful legacy here, that it doesn't just be go, okay, I finished the makeup, on to the next one.
It's good thing you asked me that. You know why? I have all that work that you're saying, that you're mentioning, is sitting in big, huge containers. I mean, I have every magazine I've ever done of Oprah Winfrey. I've got so much footage of me doing Michelle that's still sitting in cameras. I think about all the album covers I did of Yolanda, all the album covers I did of Cece, all the album covers I did of Patti LaBelle. I think about the Nobel Peace Prize when Patty went and sang for the Nobel Peace Prize. That all of a sudden just popped into my head. That's huge. I think about the fact that the people with Kogendo, that's a makeup line, loved my work so much on Oprah that they flew me to Japan for 2 weeks as a thank you for the fact that I was using the makeup on Oprah. And because of her mentioning that she loved their makeup, sales boomed. And because of that, they brought me over and gave me a first class experience in Japan. I think of the fact that I have a good team behind me because I couldn't do this by myself. You always have to have a good team of people behind you. I have a good manager. I have good graphic artists. I also have makeup artists that I bring in and fine tune their skills, and because of the fact that I'm only one person. And I'm always getting people saying, I want you, I want you, I want you. I'm only one person. If I could clone myself, believe me, I would, but I can't. So I bring in people, and I actually started that from being at BET. And that was because so many of the artists that I did their makeup at BET loved my work so much. They said, "Oh my God, can I get you to do my album cover? Can I get you to do my music video? Can I get you to do this? Can I get you to do that?" And you remember Erica Fennell, my boss, did the book Makeup and Hair. She said, "Derrick, I'm sorry, you can't go." I would say, "Oh my God, please, please, Erica." "No, Derrick, you can't go because you are the person that created the looks for the host of the shows, and you have to be here to keep that look consistent." So what I did was I came up with the idea of bringing in makeup artists standing behind me and watch what I do so that they can duplicate what I did on the artist, on that host, so that if I said, but you have to think about the fact, suppose I get sick, you got to bring somebody in. So let me bring in some people and they watch what I do, and then they can duplicate what I did on that artist. Now everybody has their own different hand on how they create their artistry, but the final outcome is what I was looking for, because someone may put eyeshadow on first and then put the lipstick on second. So everybody has their own steps that they take to get there, but as long as they kept the look consistent. So from that, I was able to bring in makeup artists. And as a matter of fact, from doing that, they ended up getting gigs and working at BET, and they went on and got big names in the industry, and which is another thing, not being selfish. You have to, you can't be scared of thinking that, okay, if I teach somebody something, that they're going to take what I taught them and go on and be something bigger than what I think they're going to be. As a matter of fact, I have had some people that have stabbed me in the back. That's this world we live in, that have gone behind my back, and I've sent them on jobs and gigs, and they were my clients. And then the client come back and said, how can you have that person working for you when they're telling us that I can do the job at a cheaper rate than Derrick? So next time, why don't you just call me? Not thinking that, okay, the person's going to come back and tell me.
Right.
They came back and told me what you said, and it hurt my feelings. But I'm a firm believer, because I'm a Christian and grew up in church, that God said, whatever is for you is for you. So I'm not worried about somebody taking something from me, because I built, like you said, a legacy. So people know that when you mention my name, you're going to get top-notch service, not only from my artistry, but my heart. that plays a big part in this industry because I'll give you that example. Oprah said, and I'll never forget this. She said, "Do you know?" And this was years later. She said, "Do you know why I chose you as my makeup artist?" And I said, "Why? Because I'm good." She said, "Well, yeah, that's one,
That's
but
one.
that's one." But she said, "You didn't know this, but I know your resume of makeup of celebrities that you've done makeup for." And I went and talked to each one of them. I never knew this. And I asked them questions about you. And the one thing that each one of them said without me asking is that he's loyal. He's kind, he's loyal, he's loving. And he's been in the rooms and has heard everything and has never said anything. And she said, that shows me that I can trust you. So it's your artistry, but it's also trust. And that's what I tell people, because being that we live in this world now where everyone wants to tell you everything that they're doing because of social media, being where I am in this industry, working with the people I work for, you have to hear things, but not hear things. And that's the one thing that's very important in this industry, being good at what you do, but also being able to be trusted.
So let's talk about this kind heart of yours, because as you know, we've said that. So as you heard, Derrick and I know each other from our coexistence at Black Entertainment Television and remained friends long since then. But even before that, how did you find your way to a makeup brush? You talk about your 40-year legacy. How did it start for you? Because you don't just do makeup, you paint canvases.
I've always been art oriented. I've always have loved beauty. As a kid, I've always loved beauty. I I've always been living my life in fantasy. And I can tell you where that comes from, Kevin. And I don't tell many people this. I was planning on, when I do my book and everything, which you're gonna help me with. But when you know, but um, and I tell this because I'm so proud of where I've come from. I grew up as a big boy. I was a overweight child that had very low self-esteem. And because my esteem was so low, I lived in a fantasy world where I wanted to make sure that everybody else felt beautiful because I didn't feel good about myself and used to be picked on and teased by the kids in school. It made me happy to know that I could create this beauty for other people. And so I used to draw, sit in the classroom, while I'm in class. So listening to my teachers. I was always an A student, B student. So I was very smart. But I also lived in a fantasy world where I would sit and I would draw women in dresses and draw shoes and I remember that sitting there and drawing and coloring all kinds of women, looking into across the room and seeing the girls in the room and then drawing them and coloring them in with different ink pens I had and crayons. So I've always loved beauty and it continued all the way through college. You know, I started, and also I sing. I don't know many people know that. I'm also a singer. I've always had the
Mm.
gift to be able to sing. And I started taking voice lessons when I was in third grade. So I went to college with an idea of wanting to be an opera singer because I spent so many years training my voice. But because, again, this goes back to being a big boy, because of that, when was a freshman in college and I was taking lessons, I'll never forget my teacher telling me that You've got the look. You're a beautiful man, but you don't have the body. And being that you're a lyric tenor, you're a tenor. They have the romantic parts in the opera, and because of your size, you would need to be a baritone. They're the ones that are really strong and and man the stage, but you are a tenor and you don't have the voice, you don't have the body for it. So the most you'll ever get is to be sitting in the pit with the orchestra, and people will listen to you from the pit, but nobody will ever see you. So I advise you to think about switching your major from vocal performance major to vocal performance minor. And because again, that self-esteem thing, I did what he said. And the following year, when I came back as a sophomore, uh, uh, went to media studies. I changed everything to media studies, and in that, I learned how to mic the instruments. I learned how to like mic everything in the recording studio. I also took classes in art. I also took classes in photography, and so my makeup. One of my lessons was assignments was to do a photo shoot, a fashion photo shoot. And so I pulled some girls that I thought were really pretty around the school to do their pictures, and they didn't look like what I saw in magazines. See, I would go down to the drugstore, and when you're college, you don't really have money. So I would go down to the drugstore and I would just tear pictures out of magazines. Lord, please forgive me. Tear pictures out of magazine, and I would take all those pictures and I would hide them in between one magazine. I would get the biggest magazine and I would hide the pictures in between the pages of the bigger magazine, which was Women's Wear Daily. And then I would go back to my room and I would plaster those pictures all over the walls in my room. So that, so I was living in this dream and fantasy world. So when I did my photo shoot, the girls I took pictures of did not look like that. So I asked the girls if they could go to their room, if they had any makeup at all, if they would bring it. So they brought what they had, and what I did was I used them as my canvas to paint them. And when I did them, took their photographs, it was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. This is what I envisioned. And so everybody around, the girls around the school was seeing that what they look like. So I was getting requests from different girls around the school about doing their makeup. Well, we're in college. Because we're in college, nobody really has money. So I was doing people's makeup for $5. And from that, I was doing makeup for $5 and then I would take that money and save it, and I would go down to the drugstore and I would buy Wet and Wild, because back then you could buy a pencil for 25 cents, you could buy eyeshadows for a quarter, you could buy foundation for $1, and I built myself a makeup kit. And I went to the hardware store, got a tackle box, and had makeup in a tackle box, and girls would come around and get their faces done throughout my entire time I was at college. And, $5 here, $5 there, that builds up. And so I said, well, I'm good at this. So what I did was, back then, there were really no books out about makeup. The only thing, what I did was I went to the library, and I'm a self-taught artist because of the fact I took drawing and painting and because of that, I had to learn everything I learned on my own. But what I did was I went to the library, and because you didn't have videos and things like that like you do now. I went and got a book on Max Factor. I got books on Wade Bandy, and I started reading about how they painted and how it's important to learn the color wheel. And that's why I can use 5 or 6 different shades on the cheek and it looks like one, because it's all about gradation. It's going from dark to light in the same hues, so those same colors. So I was very good at that. And that's how I, became good at what I did. And then once I graduated from college, Well, let me take you back. I wanted to when I was in college, I worked my way up to being a assistant director at one of the NBC affiliate stations in St. Louis, where I went to school. I went to Webster University in St. Louis. But when I came home, I wanted to get a job back into television. DC is a major market. They all told me that I would have to start back working in a cable company. I'm like, and you know, when you're fresh out of college, you're headstrong, you think you can conquer the world, you want what you want, and you want it right then and there. You don't want to
Right.
you don't want to climb the ladder. You want to start at the top of the ladder. And they told me I had to start back at a cable company. And I said, no. I did cable companies when I was a sophomore in college. And then I worked my way to being assistant director at a TV station. So I said, no. What I did was I relied on the fact that I was doing makeup for those girls. And I started, and I'm also, because I also am good at marketing, I went to one fashion show. It only took one fashion show to say, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to do makeup for fashion shows. I met a producer. I told him who I was, introduced myself. He told me, give my card to my assistant, give your card to my assistant, and then I'll reach out to you when I have a show. He reached out to me when he had a show, told me, I have 30 girls I need you to do. All I have in the budget is $25 because I don't pay people when they first come out. I accepted the $25 and I said, but I will accept that $25, but I have to be able to put my name in the program along with my telephone number, and I have to be able to walk the runway because it makes no sense for people to see your name and your number and not know who the person is. So I said I need to walk down that runway so people can see who Derrick Rutledge is, so that after the show they can come and ask me about doing makeup for them. And that's exactly how it went. So I went out and started pushing and promoting myself as a singing makeup artist because my mother always said, Derrick, you have a gift. The world needs to hear you sing. You have a phenomenal voice. You need to sing. I wanted to be the makeup artist. So I said, let me combine the two. So I would sing for weddings, do makeup for weddings, and I would sing at the wedding. I
Oh,
also was doing makeup for funerals where I would do the person in the casket and then I would sing at the funerals. I would do makeup for fashion shows and I'd be halftime entertainment. So I was doing both things at the same time. And because I had girls always running to my chair wanting their makeup done, I had to learn how to paint with both hands. So I had my makeup set up on like a table with wheels, and I had the girls lined up in chairs, and I would just roll that table down from one girl to the next, and I would use both hands. I paint with this hand, and I paint with that hand. So I learned how to work with both hands because I had to be fast. And so that led to me being asked by photographers, can I please have you come to my shoot? Can you do this, girl? Everybody's been telling me about you. Can you please come and do makeup for this shoot and that shoot and this shoot? And during that time, Kevin, if you remember, it was hype hair, it was black hair sophisticates, it was um every beauty and hair magazine that was out there. I either did the cover or I had my work saturating the magazines. You know, almost every page of the magazine I had done the makeup for. Then that's when I met Barry Fletcher. And
on just
I,
a moment.
yes,
Just because I don't, because I don't want you to skim over the legacy part. Because here's this young boy who wants to sing, this young man who wants to sing, who's told you'll only be in the pit, who turns the whole ship and learns the media studies and painting and buys makeup. First, the girls bring the makeup that you buy from the stores, and then everybody's asking for you. The makeup, and you're singing at the wedding and doing the makeup, singing at the funeral and doing the makeup. Somewhere in there it had to click. I'm good. How did the boy who was told he wasn't worthy, who had low self-esteem, discover he was good?
that came from, and I got to be very honest, my mother. Mommy always said, Derrick, you're big. People are going to talk about you because you're big. They're going to tease you because you're big. The one thing I want you to do is always look good, always smell good. And everywhere I went, my reputation was, that boy is big, but he can dress. That boy is big, but he smells good. That's one pretty boy. That's what I would hear growing up as a boy, as a kid. And the fact that, my mother said, you're just like your grandmother. You love thrifting. I've always loved to thrift. I love going to thrift stores and picking out things, and because, like I said, I lived in a fantasy world where I wanted to look good because I didn't, I wanted, people talked about me so much. So I said, and I remember in high school when I would walk out on stage, and this is, like I said, I was a big boy, but I always looked good, I always smelled good, and I always had nice clothes. And I would make them myself. I would go to the thrift store and cut stuff up and sew things myself. And I would walk out on stage and I could hear the people laughing at me and snickering and, whispering. And I would walk on that stage. I look over at the pianist. I nod my head, which means starts the music. And I would get up there and I would sing because I was in quite a few musicals in high school. And as soon as I opened my mouth and started singing, and by the time I finished, everybody in that place would just stand up and clap. And I didn't drop it, but it's like, okay, I dropped the mic. There. I left them wanting more. And I was, because what happened was I was so mad to see them talk about me and hear them snickering that I said, I'm going to show I'm going to show them. I am going to show them. And I get out there and I open my mouth up and I sing. And then I would walk away after I finish, take my little nod and walk away. And then he'd be screaming and hollering and asking for more. So I've always grown up saying, okay, you may talk about me, but I'm going to show you how good I am. I'm going to show you. It's always been in the back of my mind. I'm going to show you. And I've always worked hard at being good. I've always wanted to be the best, but I never said I wanted to be the best. I've always wanted to be the best at what I did, no matter if it was singing, if it was making clothes, if it was creating paintings, if it was knitting, because I knit, I crocheted, I painted portraits, I made sculptures. I've always wanted to be good at whatever it was that I tackled. And because of the fact that people didn't believe by looking at the outer person that I was as good as I was. People don't understand, which is why I have so much empathy for people. People always say to me, Derrick, we feel your heart. When you walk into a room, we can feel you. We can feel that love coming out of you. And that's because I love people so much. And everybody says, well, how can you love everybody? My heart is big enough that I can still love a lot. I can love you and not like you, but I can love you because I've always been told that, you deal with love. And if people feel that love coming from you, that may change them. That may change it and soften them. So I've just always lived my life with love. And that came from having a strong foundation where my mother said, and then also growing up in church. You go to church, that when you were growing up, that you can tame the fiercest beast by loving them and showing them love. And I've always been like that. And I'm now, reaching to the point in my life where people are asking me, when are you going to retire? Retire? What's retiring?
What was
What's
that?
retiring? What's retiring? When you do something you love and you're good at what you do, then you don't retire. You go and you share it. And so I'm at the point in my life where I want to share my life with other people as far as how I got here, why I'm still around when I've had to watch so many of my colleagues leave this earth that told me, Derrick, you will never make it to 40 if you don't lose your weight. And a lot of people may not know who I am or may not have seen me. They've seen me now, but a lot of people didn't know of Derrick Rutledge back when I was working at BET, when I was weighing almost 600 pounds. You remember. A lot of people don't. And I lived, BET was almost like a fantasy gig because I could live my fantasy through doing makeup on all these celebrities, having them love my work, and people seeing it on television. But I could sit in the back in that makeup room. And at that time, I was, I sat on a stool while I did people's makeup. And I didn't have to worry about people seeing me because they saw my work. It wasn't until BET decided that they were going to leave and move from DC to New York that I said, okay, something's got to change. Something's got to give. I love New York for visiting. I don't love New York for living. So I don't want to I don't want to go to New York. What's the next thing for Derrick? Next thing for Derrick was losing weight. That was the next big chapter in my life. It took a tragedy for it to happen, because I realized from that tragedy, it almost killed me, that if I've spent all these years taking care of everyone else, making everyone else feel good, making everyone else look good. I never thought about the fact that I need to look good. I need to feel good. So I said, you know what? After that tragedy, I said, if I don't do what I need to do to take care of me, then I won't be here to be able to take care of other people. So I decided to go on and have gastric bypass surgery so that I could lose the weight. And once I did all of that and started seeing how I was transforming, it brought out a whole new person. I got more confident in myself. I started loving Derrick more. I started feeling better about myself. The other side of the spectrum, I lost a lot of friends. Why? I learned one word that people, that one word, 2-letter word that made a lot of people mad. I learned how to say no. I learned how to say no. I learned how to say no, because people always ask me for something, ask me to do something. And I always what I wanted was, I wanted to feel loved. Everybody wants to feel loved. I know I may have been loved, and I'm sure I was loved by many people. I just a lot of times didn't feel like I was being loved. So I always would, people wanted me to do it, I do it. People want me to ask me for some money, I give it. And then they said, when can I pay you back? Don't pay me back. Just love me. Just be my friend. That's what I was saying to people. And when all that all changed, when I started feeling better about who Derrick was, and I said, can I borrow? No, I don't have it. No, I don't have it. No, I can't do it. I'm sorry, And they're like, oh my God, you're losing weight. You've really changed.
Yeah.
You really changed. You're nasty now. I'm not nasty. I've always been the same kind person. I just learned how to say no. And it helped, it helped in a lot of situations, because it also built my confidence, where I could go out there and start tackling more jobs. And then also it helped in another way, Kevin, because I had no idea the jobs that I had been looked over, the jobs that people wanted me for, but they wouldn't hire me for, because I found this out once I lost the weight. People said they were scared that I would not make it through the photo shoot. They were scared that it would cost them a lot of money to fly me on a plane. They were scared that I would have a heart attack on set. All these things I found out afterwards, because these are people that came back and told me, I'm so proud of what you've done with yourself. And we wanted you for this and we wanted you for that, but we were scared that you would not be able to make it through. So from with that newfound confidence, I was able to go out there and tackle the world. And tackle the world I did, you
Indeed,
know,
indeed.
and
You know,
tackle the world I did.
so when you talk, it's just so powerful to to hear you protect your legacy, right? Because when, like you said, when you lost the weight and lost friends, it was honoring. It was a self. It was a self worth opportunity because there were people that you just wanted to like you, so they pimped that to get you to do what you now know is a wonderfully viable commodity for free. You know, oh, do it. It's just makeup. And it's like, you know, when Natalie Cole came was doing her first R&B show, and you happened to be in town, because Derrick Rutledge, the new Derrick Rutledge, ain't always in town, ain't always available. I had to call and see if you were in town, and then you know there was no pause for what your fee was because the fee got her Derrick Rutledge. You
Right.
know, it didn't get her a celebrity makeup artist. It got her Derrick Rutledge. And you were talking about
Yeah.
that earlier. Young people have come to you. How do I become a celebrity makeup artist? Talk about that because you gave some really, really remarkably salient advice. Because we throw celebrity in front of stuff, making it seem like it's going to be magic. And truth is, do the job first before you can throw all these adjectives on it. Make sure you can master the assignment, the work that you're called to do, because that is the legacy.
And you're right, Kevin, because like I said, when I went into this to doing when I started out doing makeup, I didn't go into this wanting to be a quote unquote celebrity makeup artist. I went into this because I love what I did. It's important that you learn your craft. I got most of my work, and still, and to this day, a lot of my work comes from word of mouth. I did have an agent, at the very beginning, but I didn't like the agent I was with, and I can tell you why. It was because all the work I was getting, Kevin, was coming to me by word of mouth. People was booking me by word of mouth. But when you're with an agency and they hear that you have a job, what they do is they have to get a percentage of whatever the job is, the gig you're getting. And I just thought that was so unfair.
They didn't get the job,
And
they got paid.
right. They didn't give me the job, but because I'm under their agency, they still have to get a portion of what I got paid. I could not wait for that year to be up. I was marking the day, just marking it. And then when it came around, they said, "Well, we got your contract here to renew it." No, I don't want to renew the contract. I'm going to just do this on my own. And through the help of having good management, um, I could book, and because I was getting it by word of mouth, all I had to do was get the gig, and then the management can work out the details as far as how much I'm going to get paid. Because me, Derrick, I knew my worth. I just don't like discussing money with people. So I'd rather someone else take over that part and discuss the money part. But then they would talk about it and they come back and say, I said, nope, that's not enough. You got to go back and get a little bit more. You That's not enough, because it's important that I remain the sweet, kind, humble person that I am. And I know I am,
Yep.
but I do know what my worth is. And if you come wrong, it's right, it's wrong. It's wrong. It's just wrong. And the thing about it was that I had a lot of makeup artists back then that were mad at me because I just wanted the job. I wanted the work. I wanted to get like I said, I was good at marketing myself. So I just wanted the work. I wanted to get my name so well known in all the magazines that I was doing this stuff, doing these shoots for little to nothing, Kevin. And a lot of makeup artists were mad. He said, Derek, because what you're doing is you're lowering the standards. There's a certain fee that makeup artists get. But if you're coming in and undercutting everybody by doing it so cheap, then it's hard for us to build back up to what our fee really is. And so I learned that I was doing it the wrong way. But at that time, I was young and hungry, and I just wanted to work. And and I ended up getting to work, but then my fee started going up higher and higher, and that's when um, I felt good. I felt the respect that that I was being respected for the artistry that for my artistry. So,
So how did it feel when so here is Derrick Rutledge, you know, who has done everything from drag performers to making brides feel exquisite and fairy tale like on their day. And then you find yourself at BET doing celebrity, doing performers, artists who then want to put you on music video sets and on album covers. How does that whole juggernaut of a yacht that is the work of Derrick Rutledge land you at the White House? How did it feel when Michelle Obama, the first Black First Lady, comes calling?
um, it was magical. I didn't believe it happened. Um, but even before that, Kevin, just let me just say there's two things that led me to even BET.
Okay.
I wouldn't have, I probably would not have been at BET had Dudley not let me go. A lot of people don't know that.
Say
I
that
would not
again.
have been at I would not have been at BET had Dudley not let me go. Because I met, once I met uh, Barry Fletcher, I was the assistant to the makeup artist. I gave the makeup artist his brushes. I cleaned up his makeup. I packed his makeup for him. I was his assistant. The makeup artist got sick. They asked me if I could handle the shoot because it was a 3-day shoot. And I would never forget the publisher was German. And he said, can you handle this shoot? Because it's too late for us to call another makeup artist. And I was able to do it. He was so impressed with me that he started hiring me for all of his books. Now, remember, I was doing mostly, um, African American women. This shoot that I was doing with this German publisher was mostly Caucasian women. So he kept saying, I've never seen you do Caucasian women. Can you do it? And that's where my knowledge of makeup came in from all of the books that I would read, and which was very important. See, the people don't understand is that you have to be prepared. And I always have said that everything I've done in my life, everything has prepared me for something else, has prepared me for something bigger. I don't. My mother always say, I wonder why the test when I try to do my best. I've always wondered why I'm doing something and I've always been good at something and I've always been tested at what I've done, but I've always wanted to be good at what I did, no matter what it was. And that's because God already had something in store and planned for me. I didn't know what it was. And I never really questioned it. I just went with it. So I did those white women, and he was so impressed. He actually said to me, can you go with me to Europe while I do this tour throughout Europe and do makeup for me? So I was gone for 3 weeks, going to Amsterdam and Belgium and Germany and all over England doing photo shoots, and came back with a phenomenal portfolio. And from that, he became the publisher for Dudley Cosmetics, Dudley Hair, the Dudley Hair Company. And in that, he created their beauty books. And at that time, they had a small little makeup line. But then I came in and I revamped that makeup line for them, and I built it up. And I was doing all the photo shoots and all the books. And I did that for almost 5 years. But then they wanted me to move to North Carolina. I'm like, no, I can't. I can't move to North Carolina because I'm still doing all these celebrities that I was doing makeup for. And DC was a place where it's easy to get anywhere around the country from DC than from Kernersville, North Carolina. So once I did that, after building up their makeup line, I got the Dear John letter, thank you for all your years of being here, but we're going to have to let you go. I get that letter on my way down to North Carolina because I commuted every week back and forth for 3 days, 4 days, and would come to D.C. and do my work here on the brides and with different celebrities. That led to me. And then once I got the letter, it felt like a medicine ball hitting me in the stomach. And so I'm like, well, what do I do? Where do I go from here? So I went back to teaching, doing makeup for weddings, doing makeup, what I was doing. And then I got the call about coming in and doing Kenya Moore's makeup because Sherry Carter was doing was going on maternity leave. And whoever the makeup artist was that was doing her makeup, she didn't like the makeup. So they said, well, what can we do to make you happy? And they said, well, you have, who can we bring in? They said, well, you got the best makeup artist here in the city. Why don't you bring him in? They said, who? She said, Derrick Rutledge. They brought me in. They had me doing her makeup. And then from that's how I ended up being at BET. From that led to me, like I said, meeting all the celebrities. And then from all the work I did with the celebrities and travel with them all over the world, one day I'm on my way to see my mother, driving down the highway, and I get this call from somebody said, Derrick, is it possible that I can give your number out because somebody wants to talk to you about doing a job? Can I give you a number? I said, yes, of course. That's how I'm a freelancer. That's how I get my work. And so I kept getting this call that was coming from a weird scrambled number. It was like symbols and numbers. And I'm like, what is this? So I wouldn't answer it. And then the girl said, Derrick, somebody's trying to call you, but you're not answering. I said, this is some kind of weird number because they scram all kinds of letters and numbers and everything. I said, I'm not answering that because, it could be a bill collector, so I wouldn't answer it. And so they said, no, well, the next time they call, why don't you pick it up? So I picked it up. And then when I picked it up, the voice on the other line said, I'm calling from the First Lady, Michelle Obama's office, wanting to know, is this Derrick Rutledge? And I said, okay, which one of my friends put you up to this? And I started going down the list of different friends. They said, no, really is from the First Lady's office calling. Is this Derrick Rutledge? I said, yes, it is. They said, well, we're calling about you coming in and possibly auditioning for the First Lady. I said, right, okay. I said, okay, yeah, I tell you what. Here's my manager's number and his name. You call him up and you tell him. And thank you very much for the call. And I hung up and I dismissed it. And so I get the call from my manager telling me, where are you? I said, I'm on my way to Mommy's house. He says, well, and I was on the highway. He said, once you get off the highway, call me back. So I got off the highway before I got to my mother's house and called her back. And I said, who was that on the phone? Did they call you? He said, yes. He said, that really was the First Lady's office calling, wanting you to audition to do her makeup. I'm speechless now like I was, Kevin, when he told me. And the reason why I can say that is because I've always, I'm a big dreamer. They always say God has dreams bigger than you can even imagine. I recall, and I'll never forget saying when I saw President Barack Obama and Michelle, First Lady, dancing at their first dance at the inaugural ball, I kept saying, if I can get her face one time, just one time, all I need is one time, she will love my work and she will love my work. I just need one time. So I recall that when I got the call. When I went to the audition, which was on St. Patrick's Day in 2009, they got sworn in January. They were auditioning people throughout February. My audition was March 17th, 2009, St. Patrick's Day. I'm thinking it's an audition. It ended up being the St. Patrick's Day dinner at the White House when they turned the fountain green. I had no idea And then from that point, I'm not going to lie, Kevin, my life changed because they did a write up the next day, wanting to know, talking about how beautiful she looked, how confident she felt because she looked so good. Next thing I know, I got, was asked, "Am I available for this month, for this week?" Next thing I know, was booked for the rest of the year, and that's when things started changing. And when I started seeing, because of who she was, and to see her on the cover of all these magazines, that's when I started realizing these are iconic moments because I'm getting all these magazine covers. Then when I saw them put her gown in the museum, and I had to do her makeup for that. Then when I started seeing her doing television, where she was doing on cooking channels, and she was doing this magazine for House and Garden, she was doing this magazine as a beauty, for beauty. So I had to make her look different ways depending on the magazine. That's what I said. This is bigger than I thought. And during that time, Kevin, I lost the weight, and people don't know this. You knew, but I lost the weight. But then my body started shifting to accommodate the smaller body, and I had to end up walking on a cane because my leg turned. I've been through a lot of stuff, Kevin, but I never argued about or was upset about anything because I always believed God got me. He got me. He's not going to never let anything happen to me. And so, and when you have a strong foundation, which is people around you that push you, then that helps. But nobody could push me harder than myself. Even the doctor said when I was on tour with Patti LaBelle, I would never forget it. I got one hit done because my leg had turned all the way around to 5 o'clock. The right leg literally kept moving and moving till it went all around to 5 o'clock. They had to redo that leg. And once they redid that leg, he told me, okay, you have to get the other leg done within a year because the other hip is just as bad. And I was on tour with Patti LaBelle. So I was like, I'll be okay. I'll be okay because I'll be able to feel, I'll do it after the tour. And I was literally walking down the hall at the Four Seasons in California, and I fell on the floor and could not get up. Fell and could not get up. But I knew that I had to finish this tour. We had 3 more cities to go. I finished that tour in a wheelchair and got them done, got Patty done, went back home to the hospital, went straight from the airport straight to the hospital. And the doctor said, you must have a very high tolerance for pain. I said, why is that? He said, Derrick, your hip fell apart and you have nothing holding your leg on your body. So any normal person would have been screaming, hollering about the pain. I said, I was in pain, but I knew I had to finish a job. So that's why I was saying, Kevin, I had to learn how to take care of myself. And I've been realizing that. And I watched this with others. And the reason why I bring this up because I've watched this happen with so many people. Once you leave this earth, it's nothing for somebody to find somebody else to replace you.
Come on, sir.
Everybody is replaceable. And I realized that the more I started doing this. And so I've worked hard because I want to live as long as I possibly can. I realize the older you get, the harder it is on your body. So you have to take care of yourself. So I've been working very hard to take care of me so I can not only be here longer, but so I can spread my knowledge and the love I have for my craft to other people. So it's important for me to get this down in writing so that people can hear what I've gone through. They can hear what I've done because I'm giving you basically a condensed version of everything that I've gone through. everything that I've done. But it's a lot more to the story that people don't know. But they can read, once the memoirs come out, they can read it all in there. But like you were asking me, Kevin, about the First Lady, because of me doing such a phenomenal job with the First Lady, making her feel good about herself, because it wasn't just the makeup that I helped her through. It was also helping her with her confidence, because I'll never forget that very first shoot that she did, which was that Time magazine cover where that was in black and white, and that iconic picture of her with her hands on her face like this. I'll never forget that the photographer, when she sat in the chair, said, told her how beautiful she looked. And then he said, okay, I'm ready to shoot. Do your thing. She said, do your thing, do your thing. She said, what do you mean? Move, pose, do something. And so she said, but you're the photographer. You're supposed to tell me what to do. And so what I did was I told her, I whispered in her ear, I'm going to stand behind the photographer and you just do everything I tell you to do. So I was showing her, I was standing behind her, and I said, okay, turn your body this way. Now sit your butt on the far back part of that chair and push your body to the camera. Push it to the camera. Lower your head, lower your eyes, look into that camera, but lower your head. Turn your head this way. Do like this. So I was coaching her on what to do with her face, what to do with her body, how to turn her body. And this all came from the experience of looking at the magazines that I've seen the models pose and getting in the mirror and posing myself, which is why Derrick Rutledge does not ever take a bad picture.
Derrick Rutledge does not ever take a bad picture.
Never.
No.
I never take a bad picture because I know how to pose my body. I know how to emote, look into the camera, make love to the camera like I'm looking into somebody's eyes. So I teach that. I train people on how to do it. I turn them how to turn their body, where to point their foot. All of that's important when it comes down to looking good in front of the camera. So I was able to show her that, and she got so good at it that I didn't have to go and tell her anymore. But she had gotten that good at it. Only thing I did was, when it came down to her shoots, was I would go down, look at the photographer's lighting, make sure the lighting was set up correct way, because you only get but so much time to shoot her, so that when she walked in, they could take her picture. She was good at doing her poses, and then she moved to the next room and take another set of pictures. Well, from that, Miss Winfrey noticed that she wanted to know who was the person that was responsible for doing her makeup. And they found out it was me, and I auditioned for her. And from that audition, I went to New York, and she loved what I did. And she said, how can I work with you as well? So I said, have your people talk to First Lady's people, I talk to my people, and we will work out a schedule. I promise we can work out a schedule. And I did it for a solid 3 months. It was grueling. I'm not going to lie, Kevin. It was grueling because this was when they were doing the ending of the last season of the Oprah Winfrey Show. So I was flying back and forth between DC and New York. I mean, DC and Chicago. I'd be in Chicago all day, leave on the last flight out of Chicago. Then I had to be at the White House first thing in the morning, do the First Lady all day long, then leave the White House and go straight from the White House to Chicago. Just do the same thing again with Ms. Winfrey. And it was getting to the point that I was doing this basically, it would be 2 days or 1 day, back and forth. And then also, this was during the time when my mother was going through her treatments. And being the oldest child, I had to make sure that she was being taken care of by having people come over to do certain things. My brother I had to make sure I took care of my brother, because he had to give up a lot in order to make sure that he took care of her, that he was her caregiver. And so, that was weighing on me, along with the travel that was weighing on me. So I ended up having to go with priorities, which was family. It was important that I leave and be with my mother because I wanted her here as long as I could possibly have her here. And I had to leave both Ms. Winfrey and First Lady to go take care of my mother. It was a choice of choosing love of family over the love of work. And
And for your mother, you are your mother's legacy. At the end of the day, how you live your life, how you exist in the world means nothing if you can't be by your mother's side when she needs you. You know what I mean? Not that there is
right,
no sending flowers, there is no phone call that is the touch of your hand. And Lord, those of us who know you know that your mother was your own personal Lena Horne. You know, that diva,
exactly.
that goddess lived in your life. You didn't need her in any magazine covers. She was your mother.
She was mommy mommy meant a lot to me. My father at the beginning, I recall, but not recall. He always would say, "Boy, you better get out there and get a real job. This makeup stuff, whatever this is you're doing, you know, that you can play in that later. You can play with that, but you go out and get a real job." I'm like, "Didi, I do have a real job."
Come
He
with
said,
real
"No,
money.
I'm talking about a real job. We didn't spend all this money sending you to private school so that you can go out here and run around painting people. Get a real job." But I can honestly say, toward once the name started building, and we would go to church, and people would say, "Oh my God, Mr. Rutledge," or they called him Rut. Rut, we saw Derrick's name on this TV program. Rut, we saw his name here. Rut, we saw him on this TV program. Rut, we see his name. So he felt like the proud father, and he was very proud of me. But it took me proving myself. Like I said, I've always wanted to prove myself that I was good at what I did. And he was very proud of me. But mommy's, I am a workhorse just like my mother was. She was 40 years in education, which is why I'm always telling people I'm a product of education. All my siblings did something in education. My youngest sister that passed, she was a third grade teacher. My sister, little Sissy, she was a special ed teacher. My brother William, Spanish teacher. My aunt was a principal. My mother was at the same school, Drew Elementary, for 40 years. Started out as a kindergarten teacher, worked her way up to being a sixth grade teacher. From there to a counselor, to vice principal, to principal at the same school for 40 years.
And
Even when she retired, even when she retired, she didn't really retire because she's like, which is why I think I get which is why I get why I am the way I am. Because once she retired, she said, "Okay, now it's time for me to go out here and mentor teachers and help teachers." And I said, "Mom, you retired. Why are you working?" She said, "Because Derrick, I love what I do, and this also keeps me young. Because if I go home, what am I do? Just sit in front of a TV? No, doing this keeps my brain young. It keeps me young. Only reason, and even when she was transitioning and she left here, I stayed with her at the hospital for those last 4 days. She was constantly saying, "I don't want to leave here, and my mind is strong. I can mentally, I'm, my brain is here, dear. It's just that my body's giving out. If it wasn't for my body giving out, I would still be here." So she left here still loving everything that she left the legacy for, because of doing. So I still run into people and say, "Oh my God, you're Miss Rutledge's son. You know, your mother was my sixth grade teacher. And you know that um, I actually sent my children to the same school because your mother was there, and who was then a principal. So the people that she taught sent their children there, and but by this time she was a principal. So my mother, had a big name here in DC, not only because she was good at what she did, she was hard on people, but she was hard on them because she loved them. And so I'm the same way. I want the best from people. So I have friends that, will say, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Don't sugarcoat it. Tell me what I'm doing wrong because I want to be good at what I do. And because I want them to be the best, I don't mind helping and pushing them to be the best. And I know I'm going on and on and on, Kevin,
because
and
I
I
think
haven't let you talk, but if there's any, you ask me
no,
questions.
Jerry, let me
I'm
tell
just,
you what I think is beautiful here is you listed how all the other members of your families are teachers. Didn't honor the legacy of Derrick Rutledge as teacher. You didn't just teach, you taught younger people, other young artists to replicate some of the styles that you had so that that could be continued the legacy. Because you're right, people weren't thinking about, oh, just the celebrities that popped in. Sherry Carter needed to always look a certain way. Rachel needed to look the same. Big Les needed to look the same. They didn't need to look like somebody else had come in and it wasn't the same person on air. And when you were at Dudley, went back to teaching. When you left it, you went to teaching. You've always been a teacher, and even working with the first lady behind the camera. You know what I mean? To take on the idea of being a teacher of beauty, right? Is it really
and I didn't think about that way, Kevin. I really didn't because I also do it with Miss Winfrey. Like she's very good at posing, but it was the same thing, whenever we would go to a shoot, I would always go to do the same thing. I would look at the people's lighting. I asked them to lift the camera up. I would tell them this is the best side. This is how I want you to shoot it. I need you to lift the camera up. I want you to cheat the camera to shoot up high so that whenever you shoot down on her, it gives more angles. I did that with Shaka Khan. Shaka would, whenever we would do a shoot, she'd go, Derrick, you know what you got to do. So I go in there and I talk to the photographer and I would tell him what to do. And I'm that way with not only with the artists that I work with, but I'm that way with everybody because I want everyone to look their best. So I train them on how train them. I mean, I've even had the reputation where they would say, Derrick, what photographers have told me, stay in your lane. You're the makeup artist. And then the artist would say, no, I asked him to go and do this. So so I'm like, let me just go back over here and just be quiet. But every now and then I would have to run over there and say, okay, this is not right. You need to lift that camera up. I'm looking at the monitor and I'm seeing stuff I shouldn't see. So you need to lift that camera. So I've always been very boisterous on wanting what my subjects to look their best because I can do but so much. The next step is the lighting and the photography. That's the next step. Of course, the hair, the person is going to do a beautiful job on the hair. Wardrobe's going to be beautiful. But if you don't see a beautiful face in front of there and it's not lit well, then you don't have a good product.
so? Let me tell a story to lighten this all up, and we'll get back. We got a little more time. So in 90, God, I don't even remember what year it was, 94, 95, my church in DC decided that for a fundraiser, we were going to do a role reversal show because it's just a good,
Oh, goodness, you're taking me back. You're taking me
yeah,
back.
we're going to do a good, because it's always a good community thing to see the person who's all strong and to let loose, or the one who the suit wearer, put on some makeup, or vice versa. And I decided, but my 6'2", 240-pound self, that I was going to do. It's a moment I get to do Natalie, and so I asked my friend, the insanely gifted Derrick Rutledge, to do my face. But when I tell you that Derrick can talk about the female features or a face, and evolve it into something. But, you know, I cut all the facial hair off and said, Derrick, go ahead. What did you come in thinking to do with my canvas? Because it was phenomenal work. And when I walked out of the back room, the room gasped.
They did. It was a loud, everybody, can you imagine everybody at the same time going,
Right.
that's what they did. Everybody went, and they got quiet, but everybody did it at the same time. And
And I got escorted to a chair, remember, and just seated. And it took 2 or 3 minutes.
sat there and just sat there and crossed your legs, and the people still was it just in awe. They were in awe. I'll never forget that.
But I was in. What did you do? That's just the construction of the canvas. Do you look at
It's
coloring? What did you do?
it's all in contouring. Contouring, when you're doing someone's makeup, when you're looking at someone's face, you always want to make them, because I don't like what they call make up or make over. I like to use the word enhance, because I feel everyone is beautiful in their own right. So I hate when people say, I'm going to make you over. I don't want the person to be made over. I want them to be enhanced.
Right.
So you got to have something there to begin with. It's just you have to look past what you see and envision what they're going to look like at the end. And what I knew was I had to do is I needed to open the eyes up. I needed to bring the eyes up. I needed to pull them apart. I needed to lift them up. I knew I needed to contour the nose area, which will make the eyebrows really stand out. I knew I needed a beautiful set of two beautiful twins, which, I hate when people say your eyebrows should be sisters. And no, they should be identical twins. So I wanted to have some really wonderful eyebrows. Then I needed to chisel the jawline so that it made the neck elongated. I also needed to chisel under the cheekbones, which helps to enhance and lift the face by bringing more attention to the eyes. And then from there, deciding on, okay, what the color scheme would be based on what you were wearing. From that, I knew what I was going to do. So I was amazing myself as I was doing it. Because you have a vision, but you don't see, you don't know really. You can close your eyes and envision it, but it's not until you're actually in the moment and you're doing it and you start seeing it coming to life that you're like, oh my God, I'm now seeing it. I'm now seeing it. I now see, so that's what I was envisioning. Because, and again, this also comes back to Kevin with learning the proper techniques of contouring, because everyone has what they call the ideal face, the heart-shaped face. Some people got an oblong face, some have a diamond-shaped face, some have a square face, and they say a heart-shaped face is the ideal, perfect face. So everything is based on, no matter what your face shape is, creating that heart-shaped face, all in how you contour a person's face. And so I had to learn that. And my best experience in learning that was doing all of those girls when I was in college. Those were my canvases to learn how to do different face shades, shapes, how to work with all different ethnicities. So that's how I got to learn how to pick and choose foundations that went with different skin tones. Then going from that to working in department stores at the beauty counters, working with women that were coming off the street and working with them. So all of that was my education that led me to where I am now.
So as a connoisseur of beauty, what does it feel like? And I really mean this as a serious question. What does it feel like that there are so many women, people alive, who just for a moment can look at a picture where you did their makeup and have it still be their prettiest memory. Not a magazine cover, but a wedding picture or a college shoot. But there are several of us because I often put up because let me tell y'all, Derrick didn't just beat the face for God. He did the hair too, and then cascaded the shoulders. Because I think it was you, Derrick. It was kind of like, yeah, you're just going to drape in this fur. So this look was a beat face, done hair, 15 yards of fur, and gold lame shoes, and that was it. And I still put that picture out.
True. That's true. That is true. All you had on was the daggone coat. You up and giving us poop poopy doo.
Right. And I crossed my legs, and money just fell out of the sky. But I still remember what it felt like for that moment to be captured and feel like one of the greatest moments of my life, like Michelle Obama for Time magazine. There are times when I can tell that Oprah learned from you posters. I could tell it because it was so pow, it was so rah, it was so full and free. It wasn't extra. It wasn't I'm supermodel. It was I'm super me. And they learned that. We learned that. People learned that from you. That your legacy is tapping into the beauty within and bringing it up and out.
Did you? I don't know if you probably didn't. That's probably all is. I'm sure that's coming from you, but there's a quote that Oprah said. And when besides you, Keith Alexander, who was the head writer for the Washington Post magazine, worked for the Washington Post, he followed me for 2 months because when I was working with Michelle Obama, I was also working with Oprah Winfrey, and I became the cover story of the Washington Post magazine. That was huge. To be the cover story, huge. It was so huge that, every year magazines from all over the United States submit stories to try to be the best story of the year, and so out of all the thousands and thousands of articles or magazine covers that people were submitting for consideration to be the best story of the year, the story that Keith did of me was one of the top 5 in the country. And when they narrowed it down, the story he did was number 2. He said the only person that beat me out was a writer that wrote a story about a woman that was living with cancer, and she was transitioning and telling her story as she was transitioning. So I said, just to be in the top 5 was wonderful for me. But
Right.
getting back to what you were saying, Kevin, about about
You're going to quote Oprah.
during that time that Keith followed me, because he followed me. He wanted to know it was almost like the day in the life of Derrick, but he wanted to talk with. He interviewed Shaka Khan. He went with me when I was at a concert with Shaka Khan. He came while I was doing a photo shoot with Yolanda Adams. He interviewed CeCe Winans. He interviewed the First Lady. He came with me to a shoot I did with Oprah. He interviewed my mother. He interviewed lots of different people, even people I didn't know he interviewed. He interviewed Patti LaBelle. All the people that I was working with on a close level. And when he interviewed Oprah, Oprah said something. And when you mentioned what you just said, it's like, oh my God, did you get that from Oprah? That just come from you. And the quote was, every woman wants to feel their prettiest and wants to experience their pretty. Every woman wants to feel their prettiest and have their prettiest day. I got to find that quote as how she exactly put it. But it was, and it's true, every woman wants to feel pretty and experience their prettiest day. And she said, Derrick knows how to make you feel, knows how to give you your prettiest day. But I got to find that quote. Did you find it, Kevin?
Looking for it, but I remember it because she was like, every woman wants to feel they wants to feel pretty, and Derrick Rutledge makes you feel your prettiest, or something like that.
Right.
But it was powerful simply because it's an acknowledgement of what your true legacy is. And that's what you were talking about earlier about young people wanting to be a celebrity makeup artist. And you never came into it for celebrity or makeup. You came into it for the art of beauty and what it means to be able to make a perfect face for someone who has been told by Eurocentric standards of beauty that they were or weren't pretty, for the bride who on her day is marrying the love of her life and wants to feel her pretty. It's not stunning, not unbelievable, not magical. Pretty, because pretty is also believable. Pretty is the cousin of beauty, right? So I walk in, and my shoulders shift, and my legs shifts, and my eyes do a thing. It's not just look the face; it looks beautiful. It's something that you conjure up in people that is very much tapping into something that people probably told you couldn't exist in a you. So, like you said, Derrick Rutledge never takes a bad picture because Derrick Rutledge knows how to pull up the beauty within and bring it out. So it's hand here, it's whatever it takes to get it done. You get it done
And
effortlessly.
that's true, Kevin. That is true. That's
You
very
mean it.
true.
That's the
And
beauty. You
I found it, Kevin.
read it.
Oprah
I know you.
Oprah said, he makes every day your prettiest day, and every woman is looking for her prettiest day.
That's it. He makes every day your prettiest day,
And
and
every woman
every woman is
is looking for her prettiest day.
his day. And the fact that that's so present tense, right? The idea that today, at my wedding, today, for this magazine shoot today, going into this office today, I feel my prettiest, prettiest. I've been pretty before, but now it is typified and personified because of the maestro work of Derrick Rutledge, not the magic. It's not magic. You just talk about all the ways and the angles and the work it takes to be able to stand up in it. It's not some magic spell. It is, again, it is a reason why many a woman from BE, that has been under you know, your 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 intricate beauty care has left BET to do something else with your makeup still on her face and told you, oh yeah, I'll give me a satin pillow, or if I have to sit up, this is going on the air with me to Good Morning America tomorrow in New York City.
Well, you do know that Patti LaBelle has gone on TV and told everybody before, Derek's makeup is so good that I slept in my makeup and I came here to the set. They said, you slept in your makeup. I sure did. But you had a concert last night. That's how good his makeup is. His makeup, his makeup don't go nowhere. And so,
Because they'll say, well, you walked in here this morning looking beautiful, Patty. How do you look that beautiful at 6 o'clock in the morning at rehearsal? Because I slept with my makeup on. Because Derek Rutledge did it. Derek went.
and that's true. And she's done that many a time. And I was like, because I've always said, well, I'm here, Patty. You don't have to sleep in. She said, I don't feel like getting up early to do it, so I'm just gonna sleep in it. And all you need to do is just round my eyes and redo my lips. But I'm sleeping in this,
Touch it
that
up.
type of thing. Yeah, just touch it up.
When we started this conversation about legacy, the word seemed foreign. But when we talk about Derek Rutledge, the teacher of beauty, when we talk about Derek Rutledge as a beauty architect, as we talk about Derek Rutledge and a self-esteem wand worker, if you will, what does legacy feel like to you now when you can talk about a story following everybody, talking to all these people you've done work for, and not knowing that they were interviewing some people because you weren't supposed to. The article was a gift to you as much as it was about you. But today, 40 years into, this magnificent career that, that has had highs and higher. You know what I mean? There's highs and lows, but you've had highs and higher. You know what I mean? Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to you to say this is legacy? You know, you've got
Um,
makeup. Wait, you know what I mean? Because you know, there's about face. You know, there's serums, right? We're talking about doing the memoir, which will talk about all of the journey, you know, in detail as we talk about shaping that. What does it feel like, you know, with your always tell, you know, we both lost our mothers, you know, we're in a good age, but to be living lives where you know you have an angel that you know by name, and your mother's
that's
hand
good.
to be all over this and to be able to you know to dedicate this next season to honoring your legacy. What does that feel like?
Um, see, and this goes back to when we first started this, Kevin. I I never thought that it would be that things would be as big as they are because I didn't predict, I didn't see the future of where I would be. I've always just wanted to be a good artist. And I wanted to leave a legacy of not being forgotten. And that's why I was saying that it needs to be in writing. It needs to be at the Library of Congress. I need people to know the journey. I need people to hear about the people that I've done. I need them to know that for many years, I've taken care of me so that I can be able to come out with products to help other people, which is why I came out with, you know, beauty serums and everything. And I can tell people, you know, I just don't talk the talk. I walk the walk. You know, as I was saying, I have to be a product of what I'm talking about, a product of what I'm living. So that's why health and wellness is important to me. That's why taking care of my skin is important to me. So when people ask me, what is it that you do to keep yourself looking that way? And I can tell them about my products, you know, especially my skin products, because I had the product and when I first came out with it, I had, you know, I had foundations, I had powders, I had shadows, you know, but back then I was going to different trade shows. Trade shows are very expensive because with that, you got to fly your product and all the products in. You got to pay, you know, you're working in union houses. So then you got to pay for someone to move it from the loading dock to the convention floor. And you got to pay for a table. You got to pay for pipe and drape. You got to pay for the signage. You got to pay people to fly people in. You got to pay for their hotel. You got to pay them. So I was never really I was basically breaking even. And then once you get the stuff there, you don't want to have to pay all that money to ship it back. So then you're basically giving away for little to nothing. And so what I did was, because my schedule started getting busy with all the different celebrities that I was working with, I didn't have the time to maintain doing that on a national level. So what I did was I kept a lot of my uh, clients in the DMV area supplied with the products. And the main thing that they would always come back to is the serum, which was called the Beautiful Serum, because it was essential oil based. It did all kinds of miraculous things because it's got baobab in it. It's got, which is from the tree of life. It's got squalene. It's got tamanu. It's got pumpkin seed oil. It's got all these different essential oils that penetrate the skin. And during COVID, I'll never forget, I was doing an interview and this was live. Granted, this was live television. And they were on TV having a discussion about me through the guy's earphone. And so he says, wait a minute, Derek. I said, yes, sir. He said, they're having a discussion in the control room, and it's coming through my earplugs. And that's probably where you see us up here discussing, talking amongst each other. But everybody keeps saying that they're looking at your Wikipedia and it's saying that you're a certain age, and we just don't believe it. I said, well, what do you, and when he said that, I said, oh my God. I'm saying to myself in my mind, oh my God, no, they're not going to do this on live television. And so he asked me how old I was and was it true? And I said, yes. And I said, only because Oprah says, stand to your truth and you deserve every year that's on this earth. So it's be proud of how old you are. And so when he said that, he says, well, I'm telling you, whatever it is you're doing, whatever you're using, you need to bottle it. And so that's when I decided that it's it's not enough for me to be, after I ran out of it, I only kept enough for me to keep using. Been using it for 15 years every day and night. And so he says, well, you need to bottle it. When he said that, I said, okay, and that's on live television.
Yeah.
I need to do exactly what he says. So I decided to, instead of keeping it named the Beautiful Serum, I wanted it to be something that not only women could use, but also men, because I'm a guy and I take good care of my skin. So it needs to be something that men can gravitate towards as well. So I changed it from the Beautiful Serum to Aura, because your aura is that light that radiates from the inside out. So
Oh,
that's the same thing. And so that's the same thing with the serum. You're putting it on your skin. It's working on the cellular level. It's working with, putting all these nutrients into your skin. And that's those nutrients that are penetrating into your skin is showing beauty and light outward. So that's what your aura is. So that's why I named it Aura. And it's doing very well because I am, like I said, I have to be the poster child of what of what I'm using and what I'm selling. That's why I work so hard on it. And that's going to be another one of my legacies.
yeah.
And Oprah has said this before, but it came from Maya, that your legacy is every life that you've touched. And she always says that, and I think about that, and not to duplicate what Oprah or Maya Angelou said. But I agree with that phrase that, when I think about all the lives that I've touched in 40 years, that's the legacy. I've touched a lot of people, and they continue to say nothing but wonderful, heartwarming things about me. And it's not anything they made up. That's the way I live my life. I live my life again in love.
I think it's a good place to end this conversation. But I promise you all, as you all have heard, Derrick and I have talked in so many machinations. We've talked 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning about a show that finally lets you all see Derrick's work, but hear this voice. Because I want people to know that a dear friend of mine, we were talking about this first interview for This Is Legacy, and I said it's going to be Derrick Rutledge. And I was talking about stuff about Derrick, and I was like, Derrick's a magnificent singer. And this friend was at our mutual friend and co-worker, Kenneth Andre Paulson's funeral. But
Oh, wow.
they were working the repast. And so they thought that the song that they heard, Come Ye Disconsolate, was a recording being played in the house. I said, that was Derrick Rutledge.
Oh my God, I love that song. Kneel, all here, bring your wounded heart. Oh my God, I weep when that song means so much to me, and to hear my dear, dear friend who I used to do makeup, Roberta Flack, sing that.
Yeah.
Because I used to do her makeup a lot, not until I thought about the song did I think about the fact that's another diva that's no longer here whose makeup I used to do. I've done so many people, Kevin, and it's,
Yeah.
I've done so many faces. I,
Touch.
I travel with I
Yeah.
travel with Dionne Warwick doing the That's What Friends Are For tour. Yeah, I did with Guy Draper. I did.
We got a book to write, right?
Yeah, I told you. It's certain things trigger other things and trigger other things, and I'm like, oh my God, Dionne Warwick. That's what Friends are for, the tour. I went to city doing that tour. That's how I got to do Whitney Houston. But my very first celebrity I ever did, which I didn't mention, was Angela Winbush. Angela Winbush was my very first celebrity I did. And she, by word of mouth, told other people about me and got other people to do her makeup, do their makeup. And it's like I said, it's been from mouth to mouth, from this person to that person. Oh, guess who else is not here whose makeup I used to do?
Oh,
Phyllis Hyman. Meet me on the moon. Yes,
oh, you looked
I
up,
used to.
you looked up because my Trinity.
Oh, guess who else guess who else I went on tour with and did her makeup who's no longer here?
Oh, here they come now. Oh,
Angela Bofi.
oh,
I've done a lot of people.
you have touched many a plenty of faces.
I touched, and I have to go back and think about all these people, that I've done, because one name triggers another name, Angela Stribling, it triggers another name, I was doing Angela because she was doing the shows on BET. And it's a lot of people. Oh yes, it's time to get these memoirs together.
Listen, I'm here. And I was saying that
So,
Derek and I talked at 3 or 4 in the morning, talking about a show here. I interviewed Derek for a cover story for Swerve magazine. And so we started this conversation. And, the whole idea of this legacy talk, especially from someone who is so art. I hope you heard that Derrick Rutledge was self-taught. And then if you're a young person wanting to do this, Google him and see those images pop up because your capacity for audacity is as big as the ideas within you. And Derrick Rutledge has gone to the White House, to the Opera House of Oslo, Norway, for the Nobel Peace Prize. And I remember Patty, Oprah, and Tom Cruise screaming behind the stage, and you were always right there. And so that is why, Rhythm and knew you had to be the first. This is legacy because your legacy pops up this much for me. So I can only imagine what it does for you. And we're watching that in real time. Ping, ping, ping. You've touched so much of the culture with your gifts. And the Bible says your gifts will make room for you. They showed up there.
wow, and I just remembered I did the World Music Awards where I was in France at the Palace. I remember that because Patty did that. Oh my God. I'm just thinking about all the stuff I've done.
Yeah. And
Wow.
so that's why this is legacy, Derek Rutledge. Because sometimes when the phone doesn't ring, or if you're rushing like you were today, rushing, hurry up and wait, right? You get to your location, New York City, and then have to deal with New York City traffic. Sometimes God has to slow you down to remind you just what a blessing you are. Thank you, Derek Rutledge.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you, Kevin Taylor. You again have brought the best out in me as you normally do, and you trigger all kinds of memories that, like I said, one thing leads to another thing, which triggers other things. And then I'll sit and I'll talk with my brother, and then he'll bring up things, and that triggers other things, because I remember all the things I did leading up to this. I mean, I used to work at Cook's grocery store starting at 14, doing, like I said, I've been working since I was 13, 14 years old, because I'm the oldest, so I would make the money and bring it back and have my pockets filled with tips and dump it all in the middle of the floor. And then my brothers and sisters would be all around me, laying on the floor with me, and I would lay all the coins and everything in the floor, and then I gave them like the little allowances. So I said, quarter for you, quarter for you, quarter for you. That's how I did it. Then a penny for you. So I would take it and divide it up so everybody had their own little money so they could put it in their bank. But I remember these little things, and you don't think that bigger things are going to come from this, and that you're going to be always well taken care of. And then from there to working at a meat packing factory. Yes, I worked at a meat packing factory. Started out slapping meat, taking meat out of the freezer, putting it in the trucks. And then they asked me to come into the office. They said, "This is not for you. I'm looking at your hands, and you don't look like the person that should be lifting meat. So we want you to work in the accounting office." From there to working at Bear Stearns in New York, in the accounting department there. But I started out as a tea runner, running tea bills up back and forth to Wall Street. But I came dressed every day and working in New York, living in New York, working and walking every day from the brokerage firm to Wall Street, delivering tea bills with a necktie or with a shirt and a necktie or a bow tie on. And everybody was laughing at me because I was dressed like that. But that led me to working in the office, helping in the accounting department. From there to auditioning all throughout New York, because I wanted to be, again, that love of singing. I was auditioning for different plays and musicals in New York. So as I said, one thing triggers another thing, Kevin, which triggers another thing. And I've had a fruitful life. I've done a lot in my life. And once people see everything, they'll understand. I'm a mini series.
Hello. Look, the Bible says the harvest is
I'm a mini series.
and you've had many lives. Hello.
I'm a 6-part mini series,
There it is.
at least starting out.
At least the Mike Show of makeup and the face of beauty.
I love it.
I was like the face of beauty. We ain't gonna talk about the book on camera. I mean, on the podcast. They don't need to know about that. I am excited that you are wrapping your soul around the idea that it's time to get this story out because there is
Yeah,
somebody in some little town who doesn't, who thinks he needs to manifest, celebrity makeup artist or celebrity stylist, and what he really needs to manifest is himself. Show all the
that's true.
way up, and your gifts will make room for you. And you
Your
are
gift will make room for you.
place you before great men and royalty. And truly it has, or your gifts have, because there are plenty, but you're the gift.
And again, it was nothing that I ever thought would ever happen. Like I said, God had a plan, and I was a part of his scheme, and he had everything planned for me, but he had to prepare me for every step of this journey. Preparing me with actually when I look back and I think about the fact that yes, I was a big guy, and this big guy always was upset because I was a big guy, but I believe that was God's way of protecting me, to keep me here and to keep me humble so that I could be that person that helps the next person who's going through and facing the issues that I'm facing. Because like when I'm on stage, I can feel people from the audience. So if you're looking into the audience and you see, because I feel energy, and so I can feel when somebody's hurting. I can, and so I would bring people, or I would go down in the audience, and I would give somebody a hug and say, "I can feel you hurting, so you know it'll be okay." And that's just that comes from a strong love for people, So
Get ready, Derrick Rutledge. The cameras are about to turn on you, turn to you, because you got a story to tell to help somebody. And I pray that this is the beginning, that somebody's listening to this and going, wow, I just thought it was all glitter and makeup, and it's real life and real journeys and real conversations and real work. You put in the work, Derrick Rutledge.
I have
Because
40 years of
there's not just celebrated people who are in you. There is a bride who keeps her wedding picture somewhere prominent because she felt she felt pretty because of you. There are people walking the earth. Look, I saw I saw Angela Winbush the other day, and people like she couldn't possibly be this age, but because she learned from Derrick, she could have a 7 in the front and look like she got a 4 or 5, because that's what taking care of you from the inside and the outside manifests. So
That's true.
thank you, Derrick
That's
Rutledge.
true. Thank you, Kevin Taylor. You've always been a champion of you've always been a champion of my life and of what I do, and you've always talked highly of me, and you've always recommended me to everybody, and I sincerely appreciate that.
And
You know, you've made me feel good when those late nights that you were talking about where I was feeling down, you would cheer me back up. And I sincerely appreciate that. Thank you so much. Now it's time for us to really get out there and
boom,
show the world.
boom, boom. All right, I stopped it.